Trail Nation report starts now.
Well, hello and happy Tuesday, everyone. Alyssa Orange here and Mike Irwin going to join me in just a second as we get ready for the 12th ranked Razorbacks to take on South Carolina. It's their final road game of the regular season. They'll come back and play Texas A&M on Saturday to wrap up the regular season before the SEC tournament. But before we really dive into this game and some details, the biggest news right now is the fact that the Hogs will not have Jalen Williams. And to talk more about that, we're going to bring in Mike Irwin. And Mike, we've heard rumblings of this news a little bit. There was some things said here and there yesterday about Jalen Williams' status. That talk continued into today, and we knew that later in this afternoon we knew that he would be out. And so what does this do with the team dynamic? He is not in Columbia, South Carolina with the team.
Well, South Carolina, I guess the good news is this is not a team with a big 6'11", 7-foot center that's dominant. Their biggest player is 6'11". He's averaging 5 points a game. Their scoring inside comes from a couple of 6'6" guards. So what this means is you're going to have Justin Smith play really well. He's their big defender inside. I think most people feel like Connor Vanover is going to have to come in and have a good game. But it is a complicating factor. I mean, it's one of those things where you're sitting around watching this team get its highest ranking since the Nolan Richardson era, and everybody's happy, and I'm sitting around thinking something will screw this up. And then this happens. Now, maybe it won't end up being the impact that we think, but it is weird that it just happened at this time. It's apparently a COVID-related thing. For all of yesterday, I think the media was not wanting to talk about this because we can't really talk about COVID unless we're sure. And I think right now we're not sure. It may not be a test positive thing. It may be a contact tracing thing with him. But they felt like they had to leave him behind because of the problems it could cause if he actually did test positive. So he'll get tested again, and he won't be allowed to have contact with the players again until he tests negative. And other people have said, well, no, it was a false positive. We don't know what the specifics are. We just know he's not on the trip. South Carolina is an interesting team. People are predicting, oh, this could be a real problem, and maybe it would be, will be. Here's the problem with these guys. They've only won 6 games all year, and really, if you look at their schedule, they have one upset win the entire season, and that was they beat Florida at Florida. It was a fairly close game. They won that game because they scored 50 points in the paint. That's not typical of them, but that night it happened. But they have played the better teams on their schedule. They played well. They played Bama 81-78, LSU 85-80. So there's a feeling, okay, here comes Arkansas. It's at home. We always play well against these good teams because we're more motivated. So maybe it's going to be a problem for the Razorbacks. Maybe they're going to get, South Carolina's best shot. But this is a team, again, that's 4-10 in the league, 6-12 overall. They've only played 18 games. That's 6 games less than Arkansas because they've had problems with COVID themselves. Now, do we have to worry about these guys? Well, you have to worry about anybody you play. Statistically, they're not impressive. Arkansas beats them in every single category except steals. They lead them in scoring, all kinds of offensive and defensive categories. But for whatever reason, South Carolina is #1 in the SEC in steals. It hasn't really helped them that much. Their one good player is A.J. Lawson, averaging 17.4 points a game, and he's pretty good. But they only have 3 players in double figures. And again, this is not a dominating team. They don't do anything really well offensively. And they're, in the second half of the SEC in a lot of categories, including 12th in the standings. So again, it could be an easy game for Arkansas. Maybe it won't be. The other thing that you can say about them is they've beaten Georgia badly twice. I've not been impressed with Georgia this year. They've had a couple of games where they pulled off upsets. Arkansas beat Georgia by 30 points. So I don't know that means that much. It's just, again, some people are calling this a trap game because of Arkansas' sudden They're knocking on the door of the top 10.
You always got to watch out for that.
You always have to worry about a game like that. But this is not a team that has a big, punishing, dominating center that can take advantage of the fact that Jalen Williams is out. When they score inside, they do it with quickness. And what we've seen with this Arkansas team over this winning streak is their interior defense has gotten better. And they're better. They're just better at stopping dribble drive penetration. They're running their offense a lot better than they did. They don't jack up threes like they used to do in the start of the year. They're penetrating. They've got all these set plays that They've got all these set plays that Eric Musselman has worked on throughout the year, where he has said we develop a new set play for every game. Well, now we're pretty far into the season. They got a bunch of set plays in his playbook. Yeah. So they've used those set plays, and we've seen it work, where they're multiple passing. They have gone from a very below average team in assists to the #1 team in the SEC in assists, and I think it's because of all these set plays they run.
Yeah, if you're just joining us, the first thing that we've talked about is the fact that Arkansas will not have Jalen Williams. He did not travel with the team. We are hearing it is COVID related, but we don't have many more details than that. Before we get much more into this matchup, let's kind of just hear what Eric Musselman had to say about the Gamecocks.
Really dangerous. They play hard. I mean, I think with some programs right now, it's hard to judge their record if there's been pauses and stuff like that and missed games. I think they're a really good team.
So take that with what you will. Of course, a little bit could be coaches speak, and he's not going to give South Carolina any bulletin board material to go with when he's talking about this team. And we know how Eric Musselman is. He was very complimentary when talking about this team in terms of the fact that South Carolina does have a lot of upperclassmen. And if anything, they've got a lot of guys who are older who can play well, and it's why they've been able to, beat Florida and beat Georgia that one time. Only 4 wins in the SEC this year. And 2 of them coming against those 2 teams. So you look at this roster, though, Mike, and you've talked about it. On paper, Arkansas wins this game with no problem.
Yeah, again, they lead in virtually every offensive category and most of the defensive categories. South Carolina may be a veteran team, but they don't have anybody that just really stands out at you, except they're, obviously their team leader, who's averaging almost 18 points a game, Lawson. But you can go with Keyshawn Bryant. He's a 6'6" forward who's bringing down an average of he's scoring 14 points a game, and he's a rebounder. So they've got 1 or 2 good players, and then they do have a good bench. When they beat Florida, they had 21 bench points, which tells me that they can, on occasion, rely on that bench. But when you get down into that bench, you're talking 8 points a game, 7 points a game, 6, 5, whatever. It's just a game Arkansas should win unless they come out and are just sluggish. And it remains to be seen how this absence of Jalen Williams is going to affect this team. Early in the year, I wouldn't have said it was a big deal because he wasn't that much of a factor. But he's become very important on this team in the last month.
Yeah, and that's what I want to talk about. I mean, look, he has been able to really help them defensively with rebounds, offensively with rebounds as well, and putbacks. He's been taking charges. Defensively, he is a really big asset for Arkansas. Is this an opportunity maybe for a guy that we haven't seen a lot of recently, in Vance Jackson, to have some more playing time? And we've seen Vance Jackson step up, a little bit when Justin Smith was out and play really well. Is he a guy that we could see tonight?
Yeah, I don't know. He's not known for his defense. I think you'll probably see, Justin Smith get a lot of playing time tonight, and I think there's going to be a lot of pressure on him, but this is a game where Vanover has to play well. Yeah. And you never know with him. He matches up better against some teams than others, and we don't seem to know until we start watching the game. Some people have said, well, no, he's not very good against teams that are quicker. But we've seen him play well in up-tempo games. Well, it just depends. I think mentally with him, he's a player that's still adjusting to the role of being a 5. I think all through high school, even when he was at Cal, I think he was more of a 3. body and a shooter. And Arkansas, Musselman has really tried to convert him to a true 5, especially defensively. And he still probably lacks some size in that respect and maybe some quickness. But I think he's developing and he's becoming a little more consistent. And this is a game where he needs to step up.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, of course, Arkansas and South Carolina tipping off at 5:30. So that's in about a little over 20 minutes from now on the SEC network. Arkansas, of course, looking for SEC win number 10, right?
Yeah,
10 in a row, I believe.
No, Arkansas.
Or 9 in a row.
Arkansas is 11-4.
No, but 10th SEC win in a row.
Oh, okay, yeah, 10th in a row, 11-4.
I think that's
overall.
what we're going for right now. 10 straight wins, and of course they'll be back at home to end the season against Texas A&M on Saturday. You can also obviously join us tonight on our shows as we look back at tonight's game and go over some of the highlights, and Mike will join me to analyze a lot of it as well. Thanks so much for joining us. Hope you enjoy the game and join us tonight on television for all of the highlights.